All right, I'm here with fellow mining YouTube content creator, the Hobbyist Miner. Hobbyist Miner, thank you so much for joining me. And in this video, we're going to be talking about both the biggest mistakes that we've made in terms of buying mining hardware, but also the best purchases that we've made, for mining hardware. So let's get right into it. Hobbyist Miner, why don't you talk us through your best purchase in crypto mining?
Yeah, so I've purchased a variety of different hardware out there from all different types of projects to GPUs to DPIN to ASICs. And then this one really, made me think about, which one was probably one of my best. And, we naturally gravitate towards like, oh, this one made me the most money. But instead for me, I think for today's video, what I want to focus on is like, which ASIC or item that I get into early enough that I was able to accumulate a lot of a coin and felt like I really had an edge over others. And for me, that absolutely was, believe it or not, going with the Jasminer X16Q. So those of you guys not familiar, this is an ET hash or ETC hash miner. It came out a few years ago, actually, right now. And it's a great home miner that, is quiet, provides heat, but looking back, why am I claiming this to be kind of one of my best? Well, I did pay roughly right around $5,000 for this miner, but what worked out for me was I didn't put it on like unmineable, or I didn't, just mine to 2 miners for ETC hash with it and just collect that Ethereum Classic. Instead, right when I got that miner, like the first thing I did with that was actually put it on Octaspace. And this was like several years back, and it has been on Octaspace ever since, and I have lucked out so well accumulating massive amount of Octaspace token, and I haven't sold any of it, and I've had some massive swings with this miner. And honestly, it really just came down to timing. It wasn't even like I knew anything more than anyone else. I was just like, I don't really want to accumulate Ethereum Classic with this miner, and I thought Octaspace was a better play. And now a few years later, it's worked out great, and Octaspace is within my top 10 holdings in my portfolio, even in the current state of mining right now.
Wow. And just off of that one miner, it's in your top portfolio holdings. That's crazy. And I mean, obviously in a good way. And it also shows kind of like how well you can do going into things kind of with like a bit of a riskier move, but kind of a calculated risk for you at the kind of size your farm is. Putting one miner like that on a little bit more of a spec play like that really can pay off. If you don't mind, we can move on to what has been my kind of best purchase. And it's I thought about it, but I have to go with my L7 because it has just been such a workhorse for me. And it kind of falls under that strategy of like, buy something when it looks at its worst. Because I got that thing for, I think, just over, when it was just over $3,000 or something like that. Maybe $3,500. And I mean, just looking at that right now, I think they sell for almost 3 times that amount right now. So I could, like, even if I never even turned it on, I could sell it for a big profit right now. But with that aside, it was about 2 years ago I got it, I believe. And it's just been, not always very profitable, but always a bit profitable for me. Even at my, slightly higher than average power rate, or maybe not higher than average, but high-ish, especially in terms of like YouTubers who mine. My power rate has been around 14 cents, and it's just steadily been, well above profitable at that power rate. And I've just been using it to kind of dip in and out of a bunch of different coins. So I've kind of gone a little bit opposite of what you did with your X16Q, where I have actually had it on unmineable for most of this period that I've had it, but I've used it to accumulate some Caspa, accumulate some Polkadot, accumulate some Solana, and it's just been this kind of, significant amount of profitability every month that I can just dedicate to kind of like build up a diverse portfolio through mining as opposed to buying, because since it's been, you know, pretty significantly profitable this whole period, it's been it's been better than, you know, dollar cost averaging into these coins, you know, plus all of the sort of tax incentives of mining other than buying, but that's, you know, that's for another video, right? And on top of that, it's also been a good purchase just in terms of like the hardware investment, which I did already kind of touch on there, where the actual hardware is worth a pretty significant amount more now than it was when I bought it.
Yeah, I totally agree on the L7. You actually got your L7 around the same time that I actually picked up one myself. I actually did a whole eBay. Never bought a miner from eBay, but definitely took that plunge. And yeah, I got mine for $3,000, which is absolutely wild. And just like you had talked about there, looking ahead now, you can't find an L7 for $3,000. You're now seeing double and triple the amount, and it's been fantastic. And even then, I didn't expect script mining to be the new norm, the more popular coin, the more profitable coin during the current bull run. And just like you had mentioned there, looking back over the last few years, even during the bear market, script mining has been very sustainable. And we kind of turned a blind eye to it because we were looking at things like 𝗧, or we were looking at Bitcoin, and we just weren't really looking at kind of this older algorithm, you know, with LTC and with Dogecoin out there. But I totally agree with you, and I think it was a fantastic option getting an L7 when you and I both did. And honestly, once again, it really came down to timing. We didn't know anything more than anyone else, but it really just came down to the timing of purchasing them. And now looking back, it's been a huge win for both of us.
Absolutely. And speaking of timing, it's not that, you know, we just got really lucky. We got a little bit lucky, but it was, you know, it was calculated. And what we mean more with timing is kind of like, I think I touched on it a little bit earlier, but it's like, well, look at, you know, where the market is at in terms of the whole, you know, 4-year cycle. What has worked before, and how do you see things play out again, and where in that cycle are we? Because both of these purchases that we're talking about, we made kind of at the bottom of the bear market when stuff was pretty cheap. Sure, the X16Q that you're talking about, you know, it worked out differently in terms of just like the unit price. It was more expensive back then than it is now, but that is also part of a play, and it kind of ties together in a way where, well, look at every miner that you get as in its own little microcosm, and how does it fit in, and what is the play with that machine. But I also think it all just kind of ties into this thing of like, you know, building up a diverse mining farm. Yeah, you might have some machines that kind of don't hit as well as others in terms of, you know, some hardware you end up, you know, making bank with, some barely break even or never break even. But if you diversify your hardware, the ones that do really well, like for us, that's been the X16Q mining Octospace. And for me, it's been the L7 and just kind of building up a diverse sort of altcoin portfolio using that. It more than makes up for, you know, whatever little 𝗧 miner that we bought too late, or, you know, we'll get into that in just a little bit, our biggest mistakes here. But building up that diverse farm, the big hitters that end up doing really well, where you like execute properly on a plan that, you know, ends up working out for you, more than makes up for the mistakes, hopefully, yeah, at least, right? And with that in mind, I think let's hop on over to our biggest mistakes that we've made. But first, a quick word from this video's sponsor. My personal strategy in mining is to have a diverse farm. A big part of that is having ASIC miners for multiple different algorithms. Not only does that mean less risk, as you're not putting all eggs in one basket, but you're also exposed to the profitability of multiple different coins, which could be very advantageous. And with that in mind, Dogecoin miners are always on my radar, as they let you merge mine multiple coins without using extra power, with more mining rewards from new coins being added regularly. The DG Home 1 is probably the best bet there for something silent, suitable for mining at home, which also runs on 120 volts. However, in terms of full-size ASICs, I'm currently looking at the DG1 Plus from AlphaPex, because I think that probably offers offers the best balance between power efficiency and value for money currently. But where can you get these miners from? Well, why not check out this video's sponsor, Coin Mining Central, which is an online store for ASIC miners with an over 6-year track record of overwhelmingly positive customer reviews. They have all the latest and most profitable miners, from silent home miners to full-size ASICs. They can even provide immersion cooling systems and offer great bulk pricing on ASICs. Based in the UK, Coin Mining Central prioritizes great customer support, strict personal detail protection, and free worldwide shipping on all miners with no additional payment fees at checkout. You can also utilize their loyalty and referral programs to save on your next purchase. Plus, use my link down in the video description and code SEB at checkout for a roughly $130 discount on every miner in your order priced over £1,000. So if you've been wanting to get some ASIC miners, check out that link below together with the code to save on your purchase. All right, so let's now kind of change paces a little bit and talk about our worst decisions in mining, especially when it comes to hardware purchases. And it's quite obvious for me, and I think people who have been following my channel might already know, but I was kind of, well, not kind of, I was definitely overpaying for GPUs when the ETH merge was just like so close. And I mean, my downfall, if anything, in mining is that I'm so optimistic because I love mining, and you know, I just have an optimistic mindset, especially about the things I really like for example, mining, right? So back then, instead of kind of almost like taking my own advice, because I would talk in videos about like diversify your farm, split it up, have some GPUs, some CPUs, some ASICs, but I was just still having so much fun with GPU mining and making GPU mining content and building GPU mining rigs that I was just like so overpaying for GPUs, you know, like buying 3070s for like $900 when the ETH merge was like a month away. And I was also being very particular at that time, you know, trying to get like, you know, I was building this all white 3070 rig, which to be fair ended up looking really sick. But it was only, you know, profitable for me for like a couple of months before I kind of had to, you know, decommission it. And, you know, I think the lesson there, more than anything, is just like, look ahead and don't just look at what works now, but look at what will keep working for the next 6 months, 12 months, 2 years. And, you know, I as I mentioned, I was kind of giving that advice out in my videos already. For some reason, I was just kind of caught up in the fun of GPU mining that I would just keep going at it instead of, you know, I was mining back then, I think, more for fun than I was for profit or for like fulfilling a good mining strategy. And I mean, I don't think it's necessarily bad to have fun doing my hobby, but it's just kind of like, it's a double-edged sword in a way when, well, it's also a hobby that's supposed to be making me money, right? So anyway, that was my worst mistake in terms of hardware purchases for mining, but I am super curious to hear about yours because I know you have a good one lined up.
I do. I will say first off though that like you very much, I think many of our viewers can very much connect with exactly what you just said. You know, towards the Ethereum merge, a lot of people didn't even expect it to happen. There was so much uncertainty. You had so much faith and so much passion in GPU mining that, you know, buying more GPUs was just the norm. I mean, I even remember buying GPUs after the merge as well. And like now we all look back and we're like, man, it's been how many years since the merge? And, you know, wow, look at all the GPUs that I bought. And now I've gone ahead and resold a lot of those. So I totally get it. We can all 100%, you know, kind of side with where you are in all of this and kind of what occurred. For me, mine was definitely related to Kadena. So poor Kadena. But yes, so for me, going back, I actually had to look at some dates before our recording here. The Gold Shell KD Max. So for those of you guys not familiar, you know, I had gotten into Kadena with a lot of the small box miners from Gold Shell. And then I went ahead and decided to make the leap because things were going so well. This is back about 2022. In June 2022, they released the KD Max. It was a big boy, full size, 3,300 watt, 40 terahash data miner. And it was like super profitable, looked awesome. We've all heard this before, right? We've all heard this kind of skit. It went ahead and released. And a few months into it, I decided to go ahead and pull the trigger on one of these. Actually spent it was almost $20,000 on this unit. I mean, it was everything pointed to green, right? Everything looked awesome. But then, before I even got it, because it ended up buying it and then it got delayed because of demand and everything. So I ended up getting it in September. Well, guess what came out in September? The Bitmain KA3, which those of you guys not familiar, the KD Max was 40 terahash. The KA3 was 166. So Bitmain was very much hold my beer, take a look at my unit, and just not only did the KA3 decimate the network hash rate, but it made my 40 terahash look like nothing. And so I honestly mined with that KD Max for maybe 3 months before it literally wasn't even profitable. And I literally still have it. I still have it in the box now in my closet here, and I can't even sell it. I have it listed on my Discord for $600. I can't even sell it for $600 today.
Yeah.
So absolutely, one of those things. And I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know Bitmain was, going to be releasing this unit that would just decimate it. So yes, one of my bigger mistakes within mining, and something that I just couldn't foresee. But what I'm going through is something that this kind of process, this experience that I'm having, I know a lot of other people have run into this as well.
Yeah. And I think, the bigger lesson that I'm kind of taking from that is kind of, don't invest any type of money into crypto mining hardware that you cannot afford to lose, because in the end,
correct.
It is a gamble. It's a kind of calculated gamble in certain ways, but you do run the risk of just losing out, which you did, unfortunately, more or less in that instance. But I think that's it. Hobbyist Miner, thank you so much for joining me again. Link to your channel will be down in the video description, in the pinned comment most likely. Everyone watching, if you haven't already, you should definitely go subscribe to his channel. Check out every single one of his videos. Watch them all the way through twice. But yeah, Hobbyist, again, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.